What's up, J2 fam? I'm your host, Jeremiah.
And I'm also Jeremiah.
Today, we have the privilege to have with us today offensive coordinator at A-Leaf Hastings and former NFL player for the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Cardinals. He also is a former D2 player at West Texas and he also was the first ever player signed from the NFL Veteran Combine, where he ran the 4.33 in the 40-yard dash. Welcome to the pod, Coach. Appreciate you for coming on.
Appreciate you.
No doubt. Appreciate y'all for having me, fella.
Yes, sir. Tell us more about Nathan Slaughter. Tell us more.
Shoot, I tell everybody, man, I'm a West Texas kid at heart. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I got two beautiful young boys, beautiful wife. Football is something that kind of saved my life. As talked about, I've been kind of all over the nation, been out of the country because of football. So, I mean, now I'm just kind of giving it back, but the game's kind of saved my life.
For sure. You said you got two sons. Are
I
you
do.
you the type of dad you coaching them up young? Or are you letting them choose their own path?
I mean, they naturally, kind of provide you moments where you kind of coach them up. Uh, but for me, it's just all about kind of cultivating that environment for them. And whatever kind of they choose, I'm gonna coach them up like in that area to the highest level.
For sure.
Right. So talk about your high school career and growing up in Lubbock and going to Lubbock High School where you played everything, like from cornerback to running back and everything.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I was, we were at a school, back in high school that was kind of like a small. We had like a 3A school, but we were playing 6A, right? So when you think about, a small football team, I played everything in high school. Um, you know, from DB to linebacker to running back to receiver. So I just was able to get a lot of great experience. I was just used to kind of being on the field. I tell people all the time, man, we was Travis Hunter and it, you know what I'm saying, before it was cool. But outside of that, man, I had a great high school experience. We didn't have a lot of success, but was able to learn a lot. Had a great coach, that he coached at Odessa Permian. So if you ever heard of Friday Night Lights, we kind of got some of that culture in high school, and everything in my high school experience really kind of helped me out as a coach.
For sure. What did high school look like for you, recruiting wise?
Too. So I was kind of like Huddle had like really barely came out like my senior year. So for me, it was really kind of tough to get the exposure. I was balling out, like had 80 plus catches, all that kind of good stuff, but was undersized. Team wasn't that good. Um, was kind of getting recruited a little bit to Texas Tech, just being from Lubbock. But that was the year Mike Leach ended up kind of getting fired. So that kind of went down the drain. So, man, I had a lot of like teams hitting me up, but coming from a single parent household, not understanding what the camp circuit was about, not really having the media like they have nowadays, I kind of went under the radar a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, I know that's like for sure. Not knowing, how to get yourself out there, thinking everything's just gonna come to you for sure.
Right.
So earlier in the intro, you talked about how football saved your life. Could you elaborate on that and talk about what football has done for you?
Man, so I tell people all the time, like, I wasn't thinking about college. Like, I went to college because, shoot, I'm trying to go to the league. So if I'm going to the league, I got to go to college. And it wasn't that my academics were bad or anything. Like, I had good grades, but football was always like the motivating factor for me. Trying to be, the best I could be in football kind of translated to every other aspect in life as well. So just being able to have that motivating factor, coming from like an at-risk background, keeping me kind of structured in the workouts in the summer and after school. But just kind of having that structure, and being around like great coaches that were men and seeing their families and stuff like that. I say it just kind of provided me a pathway to see things that I probably wouldn't have seen if I wasn't involved with the sport.
Right. So transitioning to your career at West Texas A&M, speak on how like that adversity that you're younger during your younger life, how it helped you at West Texas A&M. Go through that adversity there.
Shoot, so I mean, I went to West Texas A&M like with one purpose, like I'm trying to go to the NFL. I ended up picking West Texas A&M because at the time, like they had sent more guys to the NFL than some of the local schools, like Texas Tech and things like that. They were kind of running the air raid just like Texas Tech was. They had been successful, winning a lot of conference championships and stuff like that. So I went there with one mission and one purpose was, I'm trying to do everything I can to make it to the league. And so just being, kind of determined, being focused, knowing what I wanted, and just having a platform at WT, it just all kind of lined up. I was able to do what I needed to do.
Going to West Texas A&M, what led you to choosing receiver over DB?
True. So I had played everything, but my senior year of high school, I played just really receiver. I'll play DB when they need me. But they kind of focus and hone me in at receiver. I always tell people, man, I was actually really better at DB than I was at receiver. But having a ball in your hand, scoring touchdown, everybody cheering for you. I mean, how can you turn that down?
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking about touchdowns at West Texas A&M, you had 67 catches for 827 yards and 6 touchdowns your junior year at receiver at West Texas A&M. And you also was great at special teams with 3 kick return touchdowns and a block punt. So after that year, was it clear was like okay, I could definitely like make it to the NFL or like speak on that.
I wouldn't say it was a certain year. I always felt like every year, like everything I did, I started as a true freshman and I just wanted to continue to stack years upon each other. Um, and just kind of make it to the league. So I wouldn't say it was just one year that made me think like I can go to the league, but every year I definitely got better. Every year I got more statistics. Our team got better. So it definitely started becoming realer year by year. And then seeing the guys before me, like there was guys that I played with, my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. They had went to the league. Your junior year, they have scouts come and you kind of do like a little junior pro day for them. So everything was just kind of stacking on top of each other, and I felt confident, that I'd be able to reach it.
Not even just reaching the NFL while you were there. You were talking about how you went to West Texas A&M with one goal to go to the league. When did that become like your mindset? Like what age or at what point were you like, I want to go to the league. This is what I want to do, and this is how I'm gonna do
Dude, I say when I was like 14 years old, like it was after my, I think it was either after my freshman year of high school or after my sophomore year of high school. One of them years, like I just dedicated everything I could to it. I remember seeing Wes Welker. And that was kind of like right around the time where they were like having the slot receivers and the spread offense was kind of going crazy. And I just felt like I could do everything, you know what I'm saying, that they were showing. And then just as I was getting older, seeing guys like Tavon Austin or even looking back to guys like Dante Hall, the kick returners and stuff like that, I just felt like my game kind of molded after those guys. And I just felt like if I follow that path, like I could be the next one up.
for
Right.
sure.
So go
You
ahead.
talked about so you said at 14 was when you decided that you were gonna dedicate everything. What did it look like? What did that grind look like? Setting yourself apart from was it like setting yourself apart from different things, cutting things out? What did that grind look like when you decided to motivate yourself towards that one goal?
Yeah, so at the same time, like I said, like technology was kind of really changing around like my middle years in high school. So YouTube was like kind of on the cusp. So I was on YouTube tough. Like I would watch different highlight tapes. I would be watching like shoot. I remember Chad Ochocinco used to have a workout with Antonio Brown and Andre Johnson. They had like footwork drills. I would start doing stuff like that. I started researching at an early age, like how to run a 40. So I had already like mastered that at a young age. Like I was already prepping for like my pro day at that time. And so just watching different Reggie Bush, just watching different guys, move, trying to practice it around the house, just researching different guys, seeing what their path was, trying to do what they did. Shoot, in the summers, we would grind hard. Like we would do our school workouts, and then me and my homies would just play football for hours, afterwards until we got picked up. And just, stacking that, year upon year, like I'm a big Kobe fan. So like he talked about like in the summer, like if I'm putting all this time in, it's just gonna compound. And you're gonna look up in a couple years, like I'm gonna be just that much better than you. So I took that mentality and just went all in.
Right. You also got me tapped into that Kobe mentality back
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Bishop Turner. I remember just you sending me out them videos and stuff, and them was hitting for sure.
No
Um,
doubt.
speak speak about like who was your inspiration back then? Like who did you model your game after, and speak on how important it is to like have somebody to model your game after.
So really, it was a lot of guys, man. So like, I tell people like, I made my own like gumbo bowl of guys and just try to model my game after them. So, I was a big Kobe fan. So from a mentality standpoint, I would listen to a lot of Kobe interviews, watch his highlights. I was a big Floyd Mayweather fan. So just the confidence, the hard work, dedication aspect of it. I would watch a lot of different players, like I said, from Dante Hall to Wes Welker to Tavon Austin to Antonio Brown. A lot of those guys that were kind of undersized slot receiver type, returner type guys. Anybody that was popping, I was trying to take something from their game.
For sure. In your prospect scouting, you were actually compared to Wes Welker. What was that like to be compared to him? And that's one of the people that you first saw after when you were like, yeah, I could do what he's doing.
For sure. I mean, it was definitely cool because, like I said, too, like growing up in Lubbock, Texas Tech was, they were slinging it around, doing what they were doing. He really gave me the motivation that I could do it, because kind of similar to him, like I grew up playing running back, and Pop Warner. And I knew like, well, the only way I was gonna make it to the league was I was gonna have to switch receiver because there was no running backs my size, what I'm saying, in the league. So being able to be compared to, guys like that was definitely validating for sure.
Right. So coming out of college, you actually ran a 4.3340, which is pretty fast. And then
Pretty
you was,
fast.
A
and then
little
you was,
bit.
and then you was also projected to be a 7th round pick or priority free agent. So basically, like your NFL ticket was basically punched already. And so, speak
Hmm.
on how did that feel? How did that feel like coming from a small school and coming from your height at that time? Your height, like it really mattered. Speak on how did that feel at that time?
Man, it was definitely validating because, like I said, it was something that I had prepped for years. Like, it's just a God given for me, like just to kind of have foresight. I knew that like I had to show up on pro day, or I knew my numbers had to be like legit. So like I trained hard for that. I put in time for that. I knew that if I had the numbers, it would, validate what was on tape. And, I had kind of did some research of guys. Like I said, I really looked at guys and my profile, what they were running, what they were doing. And I tried to make sure I hit those metrics. So it was validating for me to like go out there and put that work in, and everybody see like what I had been putting, work in for all those years.
Okay, so coming out of that signing period, you signed with the Texans. Speak on your experience with playing in the NFL for all them three teams, which was the Jaguars, the Cardinals, and the Texans.
Man, so crazy thing about me, man, is like the league was a blessing to get to, but at the same time, like it could also be like one of the low points for me, just because like I had never been injured in my life. Um, I went to the Texans, for I was signed as a free agent, went to mini camp. I hurt my hamstring. Not super bad, but I hurt it, and they held me out of practice. And then the next day they cut me. So it was like, dang, like I'm trying to go to the trainer, like I'm trying to be proactive. But before I could really get hurt, like y'all got rid of me. So that was tough. Then I went to Jacksonville. Um, so once I got cut from Houston, I was back at the house. I went on a workout with the Jaguars. I went on a workout with the Patriots. Jaguars ended up offering me a deal, so I went to the Jaguars. Was building it up. I was running with the tools in training camp. I end up fracturing my Liz Frank, so that's like the bone connected to your toe bone, like that long bone where your big toe. So I fractured that, and it was like literally my whole goal was like, man, I just got to get to the preseason games. Once I get to the preseason games, I'm just naturally a gamer. Like I know I'm a ball. So like that Wednesday before the first game, I'm running with the tools because we had a lot of injuries, and then I fractured my foot. So that was like, man, tough. So I'm out the whole year because of that. And mind you, like I never been injured. So like from the time to like from my 8th grade year all the way up until that time, I've been working out tough. Like I've been doing summer track, I've been doing basketball, I've been doing football. I never been out of shape. I never had to miss a game. I never had to sit down. So like that was a time where it was like I'm in the league. My dream is right there, but it's like things that are happening that are kind of out of my control that's keeping me from showing what I can do. So I bounced back from that. Like I said, y'all talked about I went to that Veterans Combine. I got back healthy, ran fast there. The Cardinals were a team that they wanted to sign me coming out of the draft, and I ended up not going. But they ended up offering me a contract. I went there, same thing. Like my second week or so there, I ended up popping my hamstring, but I'm trying to fight through it, right? I didn't want to go to the trainer because of what happened with the Texans, right? So like I'm over here like, trying to get treatment outside of the facility, take care of myself, but I couldn't really perform, like I could run a little bit, but I don't know if you ever had a hamstring injury. Sometimes, it'll kind of twitch, you know what I'm saying, when you're trying to make those movements. So I couldn't ball the way I needed to. So I ended up getting cut from there. So it was like I was there, I was in the environment, I knew I could do it. I was around a lot of guys that like I know I can compete, but I'm not able to do it because my body's breaking down. So it was like, like kind of that scale of like I'm happy to be here, but at the same time, like it's killing me that I can't compete the way I want to.
No, yeah, I definitely know the feeling. I've had a few injuries, ACL, so I definitely know what you mean. The body just letting you down sometimes, and
Yeah,
knowing you can make things happen.
for sure.
Um, what were some positive experiences that you experienced while you're in NFL that you can still think back on to this day?
Man, I was around a lot of like legendary coaches, from Bill O'Brien had been with the Patriots for years. He's now the head coach at Boston College. So I was around him, got to learn a little bit of that Patriots offense, kind of that Patriot way he was kind of doing his first year. So kind of learning what that culture was about was cool. In Jacksonville, Jed Fish, he's the head coach at University of Washington now. He was the OC there. So I was able to kind of learn a little bit from him. Gus Bradley, he was a defensive coordinator for the Seahawks when they kind of started their run. So kind of getting that Pete Carroll culture of how they do things. I was able to kind of get some of that. With the Cardinals, I was around Bruce Arians. He's a legend. Or coming to stuff that he done with, Peyton Manning and, Tom Moore. And so I was around like a lot of great coaches and got to kind of soak up the culture, the environment. I learned, how things are ran at that high level. So like when I talk about being a coach now, like I've been in that environment. I know what it looks like. I met a lot of great people there, made a little bit of money, what I'm saying, during my time. So all those things was definitely a blessing.
You talk about how you got to experience with different coaches, and obviously you're a coach now. What are some like lessons that they taught you that you have been able to implement into your coaching style?
Man, I say, one coach that I respected a lot was Bruce Arians. I wasn't there long, but like he had a vibe around him. Like he kept it, like all the way 100 with you. Like you could respect him. He had something where he would say like, man, if I'm getting on you, like it's not about you as a person. It's just about the way your ball is at the time, right? Like you may not be balling out, so I gotta correct it. So that was like something that I took, when I talk to my athletes, like, when we between the white lines, like it's straight business. When we get off the field, like I'll help you out with anything that you need. So that was something that I kind of took. Um, you know, that positive culture from the Jaguars where the energy was good. That was something that I took. And then I took a couple concepts, verbiage, installing the offense and kind of way things are done in that nature too.
For
Right.
sure.
Yeah, I always tell everybody how great of a leader you were, just with especially getting people to like actually accept that criticism. And you used to, I know a saying was you always used to say like stay out your feelings, like it's not personal. Stay out your feelings.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
I had to get that. I had to get that talk a lot of times.
No doubt.
But but speak on like during that time, was your mind already on coaching? Because I heard you said that you was stealing some of these things from like different coaches and taking what they believed and stuff like that. Was they already
Nah,
in your mind
crazy
to like?
thing was like when I was young, I wanted to be a coach, heavy. As I got older, like I thought I was gonna be like in sports media, like shoot, doing some of the stuff that you guys are doing now. Like, um, so I wasn't necessarily thinking about being a coach, but I also did like I wanted to open up like a performance facility. So I wanted to coach in a sense, but I didn't know that it would be kind of in a structured environment like how I do it now. So I don't know, everything kind of happens for a reason, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't think I'd be coaching like this, but at the same time, I still was taking in everything that was going on too.
Right. So coming out of the NFL, you ended up going to the CFL. Speak on your experience, like going out the country. Like, did you have any like doubts about going out the country? And yeah, just speak on your experience out there.
So yeah, man, just like a lot of guys, man, I went to the CFL trying to get back to the NFL. I had already signed with three teams. Things wasn't going well, so I was like, man, let me go to the CFL. And I wanted to keep playing. I didn't want to, be sitting at the house for a year. I'm still young. I'm single. I didn't have no responsibilities outside of myself. So I was like, let me try this Canada thing out. Because there had been guys in the past that had went to Canada and balled out and got back to the league, or had a great run in Canada. So I tried that out. Same story, man. Only thing was different this time is I got to where I was actually a starter. So I ended up becoming a starting kick returner. But in my first game, man, I fractured my wrist. So same thing, right? Like I already been hurt before, so I'm like, I'm gonna just suck it up and do what I gotta do. But so the first game I fractured my wrist, it was a kick return. The speed of the game, when you get to the pros, the speed of the game is just totally different. So I end up like trying to like stick my hand out, but it was like at too late. And this one dude, man, he just ran straight through me. I ended up fracturing my wrist. I went to the trainer, but they just said it was a sprain. It wasn't nothing too crazy. So then the second game, I end up like muffing a punt. I end up getting the ball back, but then I end up having also like a good kick return and set us up in good field position to win the game. So then after that game, we come back. They're trying to cut me, and I'm like, "Yo, my wrist is really jacked up." And so, they kind of giving me the runaround. I end up going to the doctor. They could do X-rays, and they're like, "Yeah, we actually need to get you into surgery like ASAP, because if not, like you're gonna end up developing arthritis in your wrist." So I end up doing that. Once again, I'm out the whole year now again because I'm in a cast for like 3 months. I end up healing up from there. It was kind of bad blood between me and the team just because I'm like, yo, I'm hurt. Y'all not telling me I'm hurt. Now y'all try to cut me. So that ended up going how that went. But I ended up getting healthy. And like I had my high school experience, I had played everything. So because my wrist wasn't like all the way where I needed it to be, I was like, man, I'm finna go play defense now. So I was a corner. I tried out for the Montreal Alouettes. Got on as a DB there. Had a pretty good camp. Like I was grading out good, but this is when you kind of get into the politics of how things go, and you got certain Americans, Canadians, and I had been playing receiver, so it didn't really work out for me there. And so after that, I kind of hung it up. But it was cool going to another country, experiencing that, different languages, riding the train every day, like meeting different people. It was definitely a great experience. Kind of opened up my eyes, just to the world outside the U.S.
For sure. You said you had to ride a train every day.
Yeah, so I live downtown Calgary. So we would walk. I would walk to the train station, and we'll take the train to the facility. That's like a normal thing, like taking a train in when you're in another country.
Dang. Was
What
it? Oh, go ahead.
what are some other differences, like cultural differences there that you noticed during your time up there?
I mean, obviously the language. Some places they speak English tough. Other places they might speak French. In Canada, man, it's a lot of different ethnic groups. So that was different for me, or meeting people, whether they were um, Somalian, whether they were Asian, whether they were Greek. Like I met a lot of different people from a lot of different areas, so that was cool. The food's different, right? So like anything simple from just like candy, they got like different candies that you may not know, or just the foods that they eat, or whether it's French influenced or whatever culture they have that's there. So that was different. Obviously, the money's different,
Yeah.
so the currency was something that was different. Um, but yeah, man, it was totally different from living in Texas. But at the same time, too, they had things like the rodeo and things like that as well. So it was some similarities also.
Right. Would you ever consider like living out there, moving out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the type of person like I get up and move like easy. I mean, I was in the league. I tell people, man, I lived in my suitcase for 2 years. So yeah, I would definitely, what I'm saying, I wouldn't mind living there.
So obviously, being in the NFL and the CFL, what were just like some major differences that you noticed as a player between both
So
leagues?
in the league, you get everything.
Yeah.
You go to the equipment room, get 4, 5 pair of gloves or whatever. You get 3 course meals as much as you want. You go home with a pack of Gatorade if you want. In the league, just everything that they have there is like super high level, from the facilities to the sports performance. The athletic trainers was at a high level. Not that things were bad in Canada, but it's just a different level. But at the same time, in Canada, you still got guys that can ball out. Like just because they're in the CFL, they might just be a little undersized, or it's only so many spots, so they might have been overlooked or whatever. So that was something that, like, the speed of the game in Canada was definitely still very fast. The fields are different, so the field in Canada is wider than it is in the NFL, so that's something that's a little bit different. The rules are a little bit different. um but regardless, man, that's a high level of football being played in both leagues.
Right. So the whole reason why we made this podcast is because to shine light on Division II athletes and coaches. So with you being one of the athletes that made it to the league out of a D2, speak on their experience and just how now these days, like tell people how like you can make it from a D2 and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. First off, you gotta ball out, like just straight up. Like I went to West Texas A&M for my second game as a freshman, all the way through my senior year. I started every game. Like I'm like I gotta be top five in like receiving yards, receptions. I know I'm probably top one or top two in kick return, touchdowns, yards. The biggest thing, man, is you just got a ball. It's not where you start, where you finish. Now they got it to where, shoot, you ball one year, you could be transferred up easy. So yeah, man, it's just about getting in the right situation. Getting in a situation that fits your skill set, balling out, man, and don't leave anything to chance.
Can you speak to having that confidence even as an undersized player?
It's one thing that I tell people now as a coach, man. Like, you want guys that they've been that guy since little league, right? So like, since I first started playing football, shoot, what did I start? Maybe like in the fourth grade. Like, I've been scoring 90-yard touchdowns, right? So like, from the next year on, the next year when I got to high school, I was that guy. Like when I got to college, I worked hard to become that guy. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to show it in the league, but like one thing I always tell people is like, don't forget what you know. Like your resume speaks volumes. Like it's not something that I'm just talking about. It's like people that have watched me from a young age. Like I always been a great athlete. I always put in work. I always believed in what I could do. It didn't matter if I went here or I went there. If they believed in me, if they didn't believe in me, like I always believed in me. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that's key. It's like when you know you've done something over and over and over, like they say all the time, like history repeats itself.
Right. So coming out of the CFL, you said you hung it up. Was it hard to hang it up and speak on how did you get into coaching? What was the story?
Yeah, man. I had told myself going into that last training camp. I said if I don't make it, I'm done. Just because, like, man, I'm a competitor, like, but at the same time, I didn't want to be one of these guys like 25, 26, 27, still trying to chase the league. You don't got a job. Now you don't have any work experience. You see what I'm saying? Like, you still living home with your mama. You trying to train. Like, that wasn't something that I wanted to do. You know, like, I had gave myself a window to make it work. It didn't work. You know, I could have kept chasing it, but at the same time, like, dealing with the injuries, dealing with the politics of the professional leagues, it wasn't something that I was prepared for. You know, I always had the mentality like you go out and play football in the yard, like the best player gonna play and it's gonna work out from there. You know, and it don't always work out that way. For whatever reason. I mean, shoot, you just see Shador Sanders get drafted in the fifth round. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
So like things like that are real, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's on that macro level or micro level. So for me, I wasn't prepared for that. Nobody had given me the game that like that's what I was walking into. So personally for me, like I couldn't handle that. So like I had to do something different just for my mental. You know what I'm saying? And so I really got into coaching because of my wife. You know, like I told you, I was doing a performance training back in my hometown. My hometown really isn't like a metro area, so everybody didn't really understand the importance of the training. And I had did a football camp at my high school, and they ended up offering me a job, and I really didn't want to do it, but my wife, you know, we weren't married at the time, but we were dating, and she was like, "Well, what's all the reasons you want to have this gym?" And I kind of listed out, you know, I want to help. I want to help kids. I want to help people that were like me. I want to give them the game that I wasn't given. And then she was like, "Well, can't you do that as a coach too?" And then I was like, "You know what? You're right." So I thought about that. I thought about, you know, being able to provide. You know, she was obviously somebody that I wanted to marry. I wanted to pour into. I wanted to kind of have some structure to my life. So, you know, she's really the thing for me to get into coaching. And shoot, once I got into it, you know, I was hooked.
You talked about how your wife helped you to choose this path. Can you speak on the importance of having good people in your life that help you to make good decisions and grow as a person?
Man, that's having a good crop is everything. You know, whether that's that immediate people or people that you look up to, that you research, that you study. Like they say, you the sum of the five people you hang around the most. Um, and so, being able to have people that can give you, you know, good sound advice, that can challenge you when you're wrong, they can make you, you know, look at things from different perspectives. I mean, that's something that I'm a firm believer in, and you know, without that, like I said, I don't know where I would be.
For
Right.
sure.
Like all my friends, they all older people like you. Cause Slaughter been you've been a great mentor to me. You, Keith and them. So I appreciate that for sure.
No
But
doubt.
transitioning back to the NFL, you were speaking on Shador and how he slid down to the fifth round.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure teams was worried about like his character and like if he's cocky or not. I remember like the stories you used to tell me when you was in the league of like the different quarterbacks and just like how you could tell like if y'all was gonna win or if there was like a winning team. So speak on
Hmm.
that about like different quarterbacks you seen while playing in the NFL.
So when you say speak on the quarterbacks, like what do you mean?
Like you used to tell me that like you like some people used to line up a receiver and the quarterback used to be like, nah man, somebody give me a one.
Oh yeah, so shoot. Yeah, the league different, man. Like it's some dudes that like they veterans. I remember there was a team on. I ain't gonna put the dude out there like that, but shoot, we were up there just throwing routes, like just after practice, like not even in team. And this dude, he would not throw you the ball unless you was like a one, a one or a two. And I remember being like, dang, like you too good to throw me a pass. Like we just out here running slants and like so like stuff like that. Or I remember being on a team with a guy, and we're in 7-on-7 and there's a new receiver. He asked him, I'm like, hey man, what route I got? And I remember he looked at him like, and I was like, yeah, he trash. Like, like as a leader of a franchise, you get paid all this money. Like, somebody asks you what route you got, like, you need to know what that mug is. So, just different things like that, man, that I seen with guys or like guys really being true professionals and grinding, and they at the facility early and being real pros. So you definitely can see, like I said, you could tell like what guys are gonna pan out and what guys are not just by the way they carry themselves.
Right. So speak on like just the difference and like when you go to college, you got to learn a whole new playbook and speak on just like the thickness of the playbook and just like where the plays like long like how you see all the time and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, so shoot, I remember the hardest offense I ever was Bruce Arians with the Cardinals, right? So mind you, when you go into training camp, they're basically like force feeding you as much plays as they can, right? So it's not like during a game week where you only gonna run so many plays in a game. They're pretty much giving you everything they got. So you gotta learn all the plays. And mind you, when you're in camp, like for me as a receiver, you got to learn the X, the slot, the outside. Like you got to learn the whole concept because if a dude get hurt, they might slide you over that position that you didn't even know you was gonna play that day. I actually remember that actually happened to us with the Texans. They had guys getting hurt, and we ended up having to go in at spots that we wasn't ready to go in at, and coaches were going crazy because we didn't know what to do. But you learning like 50, 60 plays, like they force feeding you in meetings all day, you walking through and you got to be ready. Obviously, if people ain't getting hurt, you know what reps you going to get in. So you can kind of just learn those plays. But if guys getting hurt, now you stuck and you got to learn all the routes. And then, like I said, with the Cardinals, Bruce Arians, he had just the normal plays. Then we had to understand the front. So like if they was in a 3-4, our hot route would be this. If they was in a 4 down front, our hot route had to be something different. And the quarterback wasn't even gonna signal it to you. You just had to know.
No.
So just that, and then like he also had where it's like you had the offense, then you had like 15, 16 one-word calls. So if you had a long play that was, the formation, the motion, they always gonna tell one receiver what to do. They gonna yell out the protection. They might tell the running back what to do. They might have a concept on this side. So them long plays it's really they really telling every group what to do, right? So they might have a formation. They might have a motion. They might have what the protection is. They might tell the single receiver on the backside what to do. They might have the concept over here. Then they might have the play that we gonna check to if this play doesn't work, all in one call. So it's not really as complicated as it sounds because there's only certain words that you gotta listen for. But it's definitely a lot of verbiage. Like, for me, I had been in an offense where we signaled, from college to even high school. So getting in the huddle, breaking out, I had to learn like, okay, I only need to listen for the formation and then this part. And then I need to listen like what the concept is. So just learning like what parts you actually gotta listen for, what parts actually matter to you. It's definitely a transition, but the hardest part was, like I said, with Bruce Arians, where like, man, I ain't never had to know what a 3-4 was or a 4-3, like what? But it definitely got my football knowledge up to par for sure. Learning how to take notes and all that stuff is real.
Oh yeah, definitely. What was it like also in the CFL learning the playbooks and things like that? And then you said that you switched over to defense. What was it like learning in defense up there?
Yeah, so same thing, we had, our head coach, he was a quarterback coach for the Giants when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. So he was a legendary coach as well. Calgary was one of the top organizations in the CFL. So the offensive verbiage is kind of similar. Like I said, they all kind of run, some of those similar systems where they telling everybody what to do. So I was already kind of hip to it by then because that was my 14. So I kind of knew how to learn plays at that time, and then it wasn't like such a high pressure situation. Like we actually would walk through like right before practice the plays that we're gonna do in team. So you were able to kind of know, okay, I'm gonna be in on these plays. I'm gonna do this. If you did have to switch around and move around, you weren't getting yelled at because you didn't know what to do. Like they kind of knew and understood. So it was a little bit like, and maybe it was just because I was used to it. It wasn't such a high pressure situation for me. And then shoot, I tell people all the time, you ask me about my sons, like shoot, if they gonna play football, they gonna play defense. You learn what cover two is, it don't change. You know what I'm saying? So they might call it yellow or cover two or whatever, but once you learn defense, you know defense, you know what I'm saying? So for me playing defense was easy.
Yeah.
So, transitioning to your coaching career, we talked about how did you get into coaching and stuff like that. So, your first head coach opportunity was at Bishop Dunn Catholic School in 2020, which was actually during COVID. So,
Right.
speak on how like just speak on that about like how that was crazy, a crazy opportunity to get it during COVID.
Yeah, so I tell people all the time, man, like I got a head coaching job. Literally like 2, 3 days later, the world shut down. We talking about the world, like everybody, nobody going to school. Like it was crazy. So it's like a slap in the face because I had prepped to be a head coach. I had great mentors, but I was in a situation where like I didn't have nobody to run to like, hey, what do I do? Because everybody was experiencing this as well. And then shoot, if anybody know anything about Dallas football, like when a new coach go to a team, you gonna have to recruit your whole team back, or you gonna have to get new players because they didn't came and took all your best players. People didn't transfer it out, all type of stuff from there. So I had dealt with that, but then I couldn't meet the team because we in COVID. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to be sensitive to people's needs. I actually ended up having my first son at that time as well. So it was just crazy, like with all the restrictions. I didn't really meet the team for real. Mind you, I got hired in March. I ain't meet the team till like June, July. And then we only had like 1 or 2 practices. Then we got to August. Then we had like 2 weeks and we had to get ready for a game. And I'm in a situation where my whole coaching staff, I didn't know anybody. I had to hire a whole new coaching staff. I didn't know anybody. I had a team that I didn't know. We had to kind of put together a team. We had some guys that hadn't played football before, um, and we had 2 weeks to get ready. And we got COVID restrictions. Like we literally out there playing football with masks on under our helmets, coaching with a mask on. Like it's just crazy. Like it's a movie. You know what I'm saying? That first year.
You spoke. This is a non-football question. You spoke on having your first son during COVID. What was that experience like? Especially, I know COVID must have changed it a bit.
Yeah, it was crazy. Kind of the crazy thing is, my wife ended up having a all natural birth. So we had our son at a birthing center. Um, so it wasn't too crazy outside of like the normal plan, but it was just a little bit different because everybody in the room except for me and my wife got masks on. They pumping so much stuff in the media about what's going on, and it's a little sensitive of what's going on. You got everything they talking about the germs and sanitizing and this and that and the third. So it was a little crazy, don't get me wrong, but everything ended up working out good. My son was healthy, my wife was healthy. It actually also ended up being a plus because, we were out of school, so we were able to be at home with our son, shoot, months that we wouldn't have normally been. So it was some things that were crazy, but it was a blessing at the same time.
For
All
sure.
right. So during that COVID year, how did you look at that coaching season? Like, was it a lot of pressure that you felt on you, or was it like an opportunity to like kind of like get everything together and how you wanted to?
So for me, man, I always tell people, man, that was like a red shirt year for me. Obviously, naturally for me, I'm a competitor. I wanted to do good, but I also learned like what was important and what's not important. Like there's a lot of things that we do that we think's important that affect winning and losing, but it really doesn't. And what I learned more than anything from that year, because I had 2 weeks to get ready for a game. I focused so much on getting ready for the game. I should have focused more on the relationships, you know what I'm saying, with the team. And that's something that I took from that year. And I learned that like that means more than everything else. And I know I kind of had to stub my toe with that, but at the same time, I learned like what was important, what was essential. And I learned, relationships mean everything.
What were some goals that you had going into your first season of coaching?
Man, it was crazy. I can't even say I had a specific goal. Like just everything that was getting thrown at me, like I redid our schedule like 6 times because like, oh, we gonna start working out now. Oh nope, Dallas County got restrictions. We can't practice now. Like we gonna do this. So it was just like, man, like every day was like we're gonna try to do the best that we can. Like we end up even not being able to finish the season that year because we didn't have enough players to play at one point. So I wouldn't say I had a specific goal. Obviously, you want to win every game. But shoot, I was just trying to make it that year for sure.
Right. So I remember your second year at Bishop Dunn. The alumni had reached out to me, Marquise. Shout out to Marquise Thompson, man. And I remember he was like, "Hey, man, you should like go visit and check it out." And I remember going in and thinking like, "Man, he don't have nothing here." Like I remember walking in and like I could lift more than a lineman, and I'm like
Hmm.
that. So speak on it about like just how like going into that situation with like because high school like you stuck with what you got. You can't like recruit or anything like that. So speak on that.
Right, right. Yeah, so it was a crazy situation. Like I told you, like Bishop Don had been very successful before I got there. But the football program was kind of decimated. They had, even when I got hired, like I got hired, the president that hired me, by the end of the first week I was there, he was leaving. And then we had a lot of turnovers. I had like 2, 3 ADs that first year. So the situation wasn't really conducive to building. But we went out and what I'm saying, we found people that was like minded. Bishop Dunn had good academics at the time, and so we kind of sold that as a school. Being a private school, you definitely have people that are interested in your school, so you try to sell it as much as you can. Um, and so, like I said, it was a crazy situation of building something, but at the same time, like it's kind of that same resilience that I took as a player, like putting a roadmap together, building it, trusting in the process. You know what I'm saying? I'm a first, come from a single parent household, so having to build my life and get out and research and learn things and try new things was all those same skills I poured into being a head coach at Bishop Dunn. And so, like I said, we started off with nothing, you know what I'm saying, and we built it up, you know what I'm saying, or was able to be successful.
We appreciate you guys again for tuning in to the J2D2 podcast. We'd like to ask that you like and subscribe on the videos and make sure to turn the notifications on so you don't miss a video.